And the light's on, right? I'm on.
Yep.
You're on. Yeah.
Let us get this Human Rights Commission meeting started for August 21st in the Moorhead City Chambers. I'd like to thank the commissioners are here and our officer, Sergeant Chris Martin, here. And so let us start with a call to order.
Roll call, Nate Algard,
Present.
Connie Otten, Deb White,
Here?
Shinwar Mai, Mikkel Pulling Normandin, Willard Yellowbird,
Here.
Heather Keeler.
Here.
And looks like we do have a quorum. So would we reveal the agenda and the minutes?
I move to approve the agenda and the minutes.
I second.
Deb, approve. You
Yeah, I move to approve.
move to approve, and Heather, second. Okay.
This is very minor, but Jerry Christensen's name is spelled with a E, S-E-N.
Oh, at the end.
An O-N. is it?
I will get that corrected.
Our minutes has been approved, and agenda has been approved.
We have to vote on it.
Huh?
We have to vote.
Oh, no. That's all in favor.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Any opposed? The motion has been carried, that we approved, and the minutes and the agenda. Our fourth thing on our list is citizens to be heard, and we're introducing, I believe, the Moorhead Department Liaison introduction of Sergeant Chris Martin.
You can come have a seat.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's not always easy getting into the chairs with a little extra around my waist.
Some of us know what that's like.
I had been talking to Josh maybe the last couple of months about coming and just introducing myself to the Commissioners, letting you know that you have a liaison with the Moorhead Police Department. If there's ever issues that come up and you want to contact somebody, I did give my business cards to Josh. They have my phone number, my direct office line, my cell phone number, my email. Usually you can contact me most of the time with one of those three. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with the police department now for 17 years. Prior to that, I came up to college in 1993, thinking I was going to stay here for 4 years and then venture out or go back to my hometown in Minnesota and work there. And that 4 years has now turned into about 25 years. I graduated from MSU with a degree in sociology and criminal justice, and went to work right after that for Clay County Social Services. I was working for a collaborative program that they have, a truancy intervention program where they do youth intervention, working with kids that have chemical and mental health issues and causing them to miss school, and then trying to reintegrate them back into the school and the community. After a period of time, in 2003 or 2002, I went back to school and became certified to become a police officer. Started with Moorhead and have been with them for the last 17 years. Most of that time I spent as a violent crimes investigator, working violent crimes and narcotics investigations for about 12 years. And then just recently in 2018, I was promoted to the rank of sergeant. One of the things that the sergeants do is we have a list of different responsibilities, and we always get together and we pick what responsibilities we want to do. And one of them is the Human Rights Commission, and it was available to have assigned to someone, and I had requested this post and wanted to just come in and let you know that the department is here to help. We're here to answer questions if individuals are having complications or maybe just don't understand some of the process or want to ask some more questions about a process. I am available to talk to, whether it's you asking the question for them or you directing them to me. Either way would be fine, and I would work to try to help them with whatever issues they might be having. Keep in mind, not everybody always enjoys the answers that we give them, but I'll be forthcoming with them and try to assist them in any way that I can. I also know that you might have some questions for me, and if you do, I'm here. I can stick around until the end of the meeting as well if you want to ask me some questions after the meeting or after this presentation. I don't have anything formal for you other than I just wanted to come in and let you know that you do have someone at the police department if you have direct questions for us.
I have questions.
Heather?
I always have questions.
As usual, right?
Yeah. They're not surprised anymore.
We all looked at her when she been in many questions, yeah.
So I work in education. I work in Indian education. And so
Okay.
one thing that I know is that my culture and the population that I work with, we don't have a great relationship with law enforcement. So I'm just wondering, what are some ideas that maybe you have for some community outreach, community relationships, so that we're not always reaching out and contacting you maybe when there's situations that aren't so aren't so negative, but how do we build that positive relationship?
So I'm glad you asked. Actually, before I started with social services, I worked for about 8-9 months down in Wapaton at the Native American boarding school down there. But some of the things that we do, or I can talk more directly for what I do, is I'm also a part of the Clay County Collaborative. And this summer, Commissioner White and I were part of a longest table event where we attempted to get community members together from all aspects of the community and host this event where we can sit down at a table and everybody, they didn't get to choose what table we sat down at. It was kind of assigned to us, so we had a good mix at the table from different ages, different cultures, but all from the Moorhead and Dilworth communities.
Yeah.
And giving everybody a voice at the table to talk about what's going right for Moorhead, Dilworth. What can we work on? What can we improve on? And everybody having the same voice, a voice at the table. Other things like this summer, I had been watching one of these meetings, and I saw an event that was being hosted at Trinity by, correct me if I pronounce it wrong, the Chira group, Rising Up Together event, a cultural event that they were having to address racism and oppression. And I went to that and participated, and just in hopes that, again, so that I could have some input, but also if there were questions that individuals had for me, that they could ask that. So putting myself in different events where I might not normally be at, to make myself available so that people don't have to come to me, like you said, where I can go to them, and if people feel like they have questions, and inevitably I can tell you that people have questions when you make yourself available.
Right. So one of the events that we have coming up is Indigenous Peoples Day, is in October.
Sure.
And we're really excited because we're actually going to have an evening event at Moorhead High School. So it's going to be a meal and a powwow or community celebration. And so it's October 14th. But, just being at things like that, I think our community, it's just like a step in the right direction to build a positive relationship. So I can give you more information about that. And I think that would be a good place to start. It's a community event if you want to help serve food or volunteer in any way.
Sure.
We're always looking for more, more help. But also, then I think they could just see you in a much different light, because I do think we need to work together instead of feeling like it's a us against you.
Yeah, we don't want you to feel like that. We don't want anybody to feel like that.
Right.
And just being there isn't enough for us. Our department doesn't want us just to be there.
Right.
If we're there, we want to participate.
Okay.
We don't want to just be standing around. We want to be involved. We want to be active while we're there, while we're participating.
Okay. I can email you the information.
Absolutely.
You'll get us
Yep.
his contact information. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I just want to comment on, since I worked with the city commission and the city Native Commission and Human Relations Commission in the city of Fargo. Our liaison was, I was really glad that, our commission here is having a liaison too. And they were they would come to the events and they would help pass out maybe popsicles, and stuff. Or even when we had the Indigenous Peoples Day, the mayor and stuff, and our liaison police officers was right out there dancing.
Sure.
And stuff, being part of the
You don't want
community.
that to happen if I come to the event. Trust me. Trust me, you
As
don't.
long as you can keep the beat, then you're okay.
I can't.
We don't look at that anymore. There's some natives who still keep walking, they're dancing when the drum beat stops, and oh yeah. So, but that was really positive, not only to to us as a commission, but as a people. The community, when they see that, hey, this officer is no different than us. He's right out there enjoying the moment and stuff. And then a lot of our other programs that when the officers would show up and stuff, and we would introduce, because a lot of times they don't know we have the liaison.
Right.
And I think at the first time we had the Native American picnic, I can't remember her name right now. She came and introduced the commissioners and our City of Fargo police liaison. And there she was right with everybody else there handing out food and stuff. And, not only that, she even brought her police car and the kids she gave them little stickers and things. And of course, we're teasing some of our Native brothers and says they're kind of hiding around. I said, they're checking on you or something. But, it's a teasing thing. And if you're down at the Waffen Indian School, you would probably see a lot of that in a way, teasing and stuff among each natives and stuff like that. But it becomes a more social, relaxed feeling when that happens and stuff, and
Sure.
it feels more important. They feel more important, and stuff, instead of something happens, then you're showing up. But if you're right there when a community things, and stuff, and it doesn't even have to be with the Native people. It can be with the other cultures and stuff. That
Absolutely.
Since the Human Rights Commission is a wide range of other things and stuff. So and I think that's great. Okay, go ahead, Deb.
Thanks. So a couple of things. One is just, well, thank you for the work that you've been doing. I loved working on the Longest Table event, and I also know how involved you've been in Night to Unite, too. And I think that those are the kind of things that help us to build community. And I think, as Commissioner Keeler said, that, some of it is we have not always the best relationships. And so if we can bring people together to get to know each other, then I think that can make a big difference. And so I would love it if we as a commission, maybe that would be something that we could work collaboratively with you on planning some things, like do some outreach events. So have some events in the community, like a social with the, community folks and you and other officers, so people can get to know each other. And so, that would be one thing. And then also looking at ways that we might be able to help with encouraging folks from underrepresented communities to be involved with the Citizen Police Academy. Because think about it, when we had the chief in here at one of our meetings earlier in the summer, and we had a really good discussion. And in part, he came in to talk to us about the hit and run incident that, a horrific incident that we had in our community. And just, most of us are not that familiar with the process, so how the investigative process, is carried out. And so you don't always know what is happening, and especially if you don't have those connections and that trust, it can make things even worse. So even having him talk about it, so looking at, if folks were involved with the Citizens Police Academy, I know in my neighborhood, we had someone who went through it, and then she was able to kind of be that connection too, and say, oh yeah, I know a little bit, about how these things work, or just at least tell us who to contact. And I also thought of getting kids involved. We might be able to help maybe get some more kids involved with Police Explorers. So, that's again another place where they could build relationships and maybe go into law enforcement, and then ideally, increase the underrepresented communities in law enforcement. So that's my I'd love to have us work on that.
We have a couple other programs for youth as well that we do outreach with, and we have our summer youth program that we reach out to about 185 kids every summer, and then we have a program that was just started up last year in 2018, a PALS, a Police Activity League, where we do small group mentoring. Usually it's kind of one-on-one mentoring, and we're doing sporting events with boys and girls going to different events around the Fargo-Moorhead area. And I have a couple ideas, and maybe I can email Josh, and he can send it out to the group to see if you might be interested in helping us out with that.
What age is that, PALS?
I don't know if we have a set age group. The ones that I've been participating in have been 8 to 14, but I don't think we have a set age group. It kind of goes by each event that we're doing, and then the amount of volunteer mentors that we have for that event. And the summer youth program, I believe that's 9 through 12.
Right.
And what's the youngest for Police Explorers?
15 to
15.
21.
Okay,
Once they're
yeah.
21, they're aging out of our Police Explorers. And we usually have anywhere 14 to 20 explorers in our post at a time, and some of them just stay for a year and they realize that law enforcement isn't for them. Some stay for 4 or 5 years and they realize law enforcement isn't for them, but they get a lot of life skills and communication skills. We're not just teaching them to be police officers, although that's what our focus is on. We're trying to teach them everyday living skills that they can use to help them at whatever job they go into.
Yeah. How is the recruitment right now done for that? Or
Each year it's a little different depending on kind of how, if we're heavy on the high school age students, then we'll recruit more for the college age students to kind of balance it out. And if we're heavy on the older students, then we'll go to the high school and we recruit through the counselors, through the intercom and the job fairs that they have.
do you have any goals? Do they have any, like, kind of, or efforts to just try to recruit from underrepresented communities?
I don't know if they have any specific efforts. I was an advisor for 10
Yeah.
years, and now I've been out of it for 5, 6 years, so I don't know the answer to that.
That would give something that, yeah, I think would be great to help with.
Ken?
Yeah, Kani.
Khan.
Yeah, my name is Kani Aran. Is this on?
Yep.
I think so, yeah. My name is Kani Aran. I'm one of the commissioners, and I also run a non-profit organization called Afro-American Development Association. And most of the time, we get invited from West Fargo Police, where they do a community event where most of the community, a lot of different people come with their traditional foods. And the most important thing is the police liaison is also introducing each community and giving his business cards and telling them that they can feel free to call me whenever you feel something like that. And I'm wondering why we don't have this stuff. So I understand you may new for this position, but are you planning to do something like that in the future, like community events where people come together and you introduce for yourself for each community?
I guess I specifically haven't planned any of those events. The event that you talk of is kind of new to me. If you wanted to share some more of the information with me, I'd be more than happy to learn about it and contact the West Fargo officer that is he hosting the event, or is he present at the event?
The most important thing is he's present. He's the one who is organizing the event.
Okay.
It's kind of picnic. People will come with their food, and people have responsible to come with their food and show up there. But he's leading the event, as well as the other police departments are there. And the most important thing, he's the one who's leading the event and inviting the other community.
Okay. So
I feel like it's something nice. I like what they're doing.
sure, maybe we can work together and get something organized for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Sergeant Martin?
One more question.
One more, okay.
Did you mention this event, sports event, something like that earlier?
Yeah, we have a PALS Police Activity League.
Is that what sports league, like tennis or football or soccer? What is that?
We've done different leagues, different events with basketball, football, baseball. I don't know if we've had a soccer or swimming event yet, but I know that another sergeant is the one that runs it, and then each of the officers that are involved kind of take a different piece of it, so they're kind of allowed to explore different events within what they're comfortable with or what they're experienced with.
Thank you.
Should be soccer, right?
That's what I feel.
My kids are soccer players, along with football and basketball and
Yeah.
softball, baseball.
Sergeant Moore,
Deb?
could you just talk a little bit more about the Citizen Police Academy too, just for adults, if we could get the word
Absolutely.
out about that too?
Yeah, so we have a Citizens Police Academy, and I believe we take around 24 members each year. It starts up in the fall, and I may be wrong, but I believe it's a 10-week session that they have, and they focus about 2.5 to 3 hours each week on a couple different events. So, for example, one night they might be talking about traffic stops, accident investigations, and a gang presentation. Another night, they might be going to the range for a firearms class and a demonstration from the SWAT team. But each night is a structured night where they have, it's usually 2 or 3 different activities that they're going through and that they're being taught on, and a lot of it, or some of it is hands-on as well. They'll do some self-defense training with it and defense tactics. And then at the end of the session, the 10 weeks, they have a banquet. Each of the nights they have a meal that's provided with them because it is an extended period of time. We host it at our new law enforcement center up in North Moorhead. We have wonderful training rooms in there. It's a great facility. We're very lucky and fortunate to have it, to be moved out of our old law enforcement center. Leanne Wallen with the Moorhead Police Department is in charge of the academy, and if anybody's interested, if they still have available seats, they can contact her at the police department, just calling the Moorhead Police Department at 299-5103. Ask for Leanne Wallen, and she'll let them know if there's any spots still available for the Citizens Police Academy.
I went through several years ago, I went through the Fargo Police Academy and the Fire Academy, and it was awesome. I tell you, it was something. The part I liked the whole thing. The one that really stuck out in my mind was the present, or, I can say it, where they can tell about the blood type, or,
Like forensic?
forensic, right, the forensic. And I thought that was really awesome because when I worked for the post office years before I went back to school, we had a bomb that went off at the post office, and there's five persons that were injured and stuff. And when I just got there and everybody was out and stuff, but when we talked about it, about that person that sent the bomb, because there was a bomb there, and they caught one going to I think they were going to the federal judge, and they caught one at the federal judge place before it went off and stuff. But when I was there, it blew up right in the post office. But as they did the forensic over time, they knew who it was, but they couldn't, get to him. And by the time they did find out where he was to get to him, he actually blew himself up in the Denver area outside, making a bomb and stuff. So, and another thing that was really had to do with like the scenario of a stabbing, and how the drops on the thing, it was kind of really interesting because we looked at it and I said, I don't know, but he said that person that was on a bike. And so they were further apart, the droplets and stuff. And, I would have never known that. So, of course, they hooked me up too and let a dog take me down too. So, but that was
You do get plenty of opportunities to be part of the demonstrations, whether it's with the K-9, the SWAT, or the ever favorite, the TASER training. So
yeah,
it's quite the experience, and people seem to enjoy it when they go through
You
it.
guys are selling it well.
But there was a crazy incident when I was there, and we were all there. I just had surgery on my knee, so I didn't participate in the taser part. But there was 4 girls sitting below me, and then the instructor says, "Does anybody want?" I can hear them talking to each other, and pretty soon they all raised their hand, and they said, "We'd like to do it." but we wanted to be all hooked together, arm's length, hooked together. And I was like, what are they thinking? But then finally it dawned on me what they were thinking. And then so they tape them to you, they don't shoot you or anything like that. So he made them kneel down, and then he taped one, and then he taped the other one, but they're all hooked together and stuff like that. And I think he gave them a second and a half. Is that like 40,000, 50 volts? All they did is scream and fall over. And he says, what were you girls thinking? We were thinking that if we all got together, we only would get 10,000 volts. Oh, no. He said, that goes all through you guys. I was crazy. But, there was incidents like that. It was fun. I got to learn a lot of stuff, and I was a pretty good shot, too. But I grew up hunting, so. One scenario, though, I was in because they had that sensor arm was all around like that. I was more focused on the ones robbers in front, and I didn't know one snuck behind me and shot me in the back. So I did. That was pretty good, though. It was a scenario. But fire, I don't know if the fire do their citizens here too? Citizens?
I'm not sure if Moorhead does one or not.
Yeah. That was another. And so if you get a chance, try. I said it was really awesome.
Yeah.
It was really awesome, and so.
Well, and I just think if you were to pass, even though you don't lead those programs, but as the liaison, if you pass it on to us, then we can share it in our communities, and that, I think maybe sometimes that we're out there encouraging people too,
Yes.
then you might,
Yes.
expand the pool of applicants that are getting involved, so.
Absolutely. The more people that know about it, the more they're going to take advantage of it.
Right, yeah.
So I do have a question. It's very different than any of these questions, but as the Human Rights Commission, we are here to be a voice of the people who are underserved typically. And so I'm just wondering, what do you guys do, or what opportunities do you take advantage of to continuously do some cultural sensitivity training in different communities? Because I know we have a large population of different cultures, and I know that within that there's different things. So for an example that I know is when we burn sage, a lot of people think that it smells like something else. And I know that there's been times that law enforcement enters and assumes that, and it's this whole misunderstanding of culture. And so I'm just wondering, what do you guys do to continuously stay up on the cultural sensitivity of the populations that we have in this community?
So one of the things that we do is, like I told you earlier, we attend some of the trainings that Cheer and other events are hosting. We also have trainings, bias and cultural sensitivity trainings that we go through. The state of Minnesota requires it as part of our post licensing. I believe it's every 2 years that we attend those trainings. Our post licensing just started requiring those trainings in 2018. We set ours up, I believe, the first week or two that they were required, and started sending our officers through them. And we'll continue to do that. But that's just a training. Mm-hmm. It's not the same as actually going out to the events and being around people, talking to them, listening to them, interacting with them and their children, and being involved. So how do we get there? How do we do that? We're being here, being involved with the kids that we have in the community. A lot of it goes unseen as well. We have many officers that are involved with coaching, from soccer, basketball, football, volleyball. But it goes unnoticed, not by them, but by people, because we're not in uniform when we're doing that. Trying to integrate ourselves within the community of Moorhead, not just our immediate friends or immediate friends of our children's friends, but trying to stay involved with the community in multiple different roles. Do we have any set programs where we're required to go out and do a certain amount of activities or anything like that? No, it's on the officers if they want to be more involved to find activities to be involved with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that that's great. I love community involvement. I think that sets a foundation. I would just, if there's one piece of advice that I would give, I just think that there's a difference sometimes, because I don't know if you can tell me who gives the cultural sensitivity trainings. I know on the North Dakota side, when they go for their, their police academy, it's a white lady that's talking about cultural sensitivity. And sometimes it just comes across different when it's not being presented by people through our lens. And so I would just maybe challenge all of us together if that's something individually that we can do for our law enforcement, and then maybe that's where you can come in with partnering to get people at the table to listen, and we could work on putting presentations together about some of those specifics that maybe people don't talk about at community events, but that it's a very intentional conversation about some of those cultural things that maybe we don't talk about. I mean, I would say that if that's something that we can partner together, even within the next year, just at least try to hold it with a couple people first, a couple sergeants maybe, and just kind of test run it and see if it's beneficial for our law enforcement. I mean, so it's not just a state level thing, that we're doing something intentional within our own community.
We have a lot of small groups that you could present to. We have 3 different briefings a day where we have 7, 8 officers in those briefings, and
Okay.
we definitely could test run it on some smaller groups. If you have some ideas that you want to put together and send over to me, I'd be very happy to take a look at them. And I don't remember what her name was. She was a African-American professor from, I want to say, St. Thomas,
Okay.
that came up, and she does a lot of the trainings throughout the state.
That's good. I was just so blown away when the state of North Dakota had somebody that I know was in police officer training, and I asked her, and it was like only about a 2-hour training out of all of the weeks that they're there, and it was by a non-minority. And I just find that so ironic that there's enough of us that know like what we're talking about that are from a minority community, that it tends to be really interesting. So I'm glad to see that what the information you guys are getting. I'd just like to see something more tailored specifically to our community.
I don't have any specific incident that I'm referring to, but do you have training on dealing with people with serious mental health issues, like somebody who's actively schizophrenic or something like that?
Yes.
Because I've heard of that in other places, and it can turn out poorly in a hurry.
We would not be doing our community justice if we did not have crisis intervention training, ongoing crisis intervention training, because it is used every single day by our officers. It would be more of a rarity where we go through a shift without using some type of our training. So yes, we do. Oh, and I'm going to forget. So I don't want to forget. If any of you are interested in riding along with our officers and would want to ride along, again, contact me. Sergeant Boxlin runs our ride-along program. I can get you in touch with him, and he could line it up if you want to ride with one of our officers. For whatever reason, our profession, people like to come and watch us work. I've always thought it was a little odd. I've never really got the feeling where I wanted to go and watch somebody else work, but people like to ride with us and see what we're doing. So if you're ever interested in doing that, get a hold of me. I'll talk to Sergeant Boxlin, and we'll get you lined up on either a day, evening, or some people even pick the midnight shift from. Usually we set them up for 3 or 4 hours, or we can tailor it to what your needs or goals are.
Is that like an 18 plus, 21 plus? What's the ages on a ride along?
I believe it's 18 and over. The younger, under 18, we do, but we just do it for our explorers, our police explorers.
Okay.
Well, do we have any more questions for Sergeant Martin? I think it was very informational. I really, I didn't, you said you worked at the Wapton Indian School for about eight months?
I did, yes.
I worked there years ago too, so.
Okay.
I think from there I went to the State Reform School working as a counselor there, so for
Okay.
a few years and stuff. But,
Sure.
Yeah, it's, I'm glad that you came, and I'm glad that you introduced yourself, and I'm sure we're going to have a good partnership. You know.
Excellent. Josh has my cards. If you have any more questions, feel free to email them out to me. If I don't answer you, it's because I'm on my days off, which are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday type thing. It could be any day of the week. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, we do have a very important guest speaker today. He was a costly person. We had to find some money for to come in. But I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Josh Hoffman.
Well, thank
Hey,
you.
way to go. Did you fly in here?
All
Or?
the way from the third floor.
Special for today.
From the third floor, okay.
I appreciate you giving me the time to talk a little bit about the work I do in my daytime job here for the city when I'm not here. Nobody wants to ride along with me for half a day, sit next to my desk and see what I'm doing. It's not always the most exciting or thrilling, although I enjoy it quite a bit. I'm here tonight to talk about the city's use of community development block grant dollars. That's what I do on a regular basis. I administer those programs that use those dollars, and we are in the middle of preparing our next five-year plan. So I'm going to give just some basics on, I call it CDBG rather than Community Development Block Grant because it's a lot easier to say. I included some information in the packet. I apologize. I know Deb's heard some of this before, but wanted to give some background before I just kind of listen and hear what you guys have to say regarding some of this work. As part of the five-year plan, it's very important that we do citizen consultation. We consult with local government commissions like yourselves, as well as different social service organizations and citizens. We've surveyed the citizens, so we do a lot of collecting data in the community to find out what are the priorities, what's most important, and what do we really need to keep an eye on as we prepare this five-year plan. So I'll just share some information before we kind of hopefully have some good conversation about it. The CDBG program, it's a super valuable funding source for communities. Communities like Moorhead are fortunate enough to get it. They're called entitlement communities. In order to be able to receive these federal dollars, you have to be a community that has 50,000 people or more. Moorhead, though not quite 50,000, gets to participate because we're part of a larger metro area. And so that entitles us to this yearly funding. The amount that we get, the program is administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They've been running this program since the 70s. Funding has fluctuated year by year. At its highest point in the 90s, the city received about $490,000. In 95, that was the high point. For 2019, our award was just under $240,000. So it does fluctuate yearly. It's generally year to year. It's not huge. It can go down a little, up a little, but that's generally what we have to work with. The activities that we fund with these dollars have to meet one of three national objectives. It's a picky funding source. We can't do just anything with it. There are ways that we can be creative with it, and other areas where it's very regimented and we can do it or we can't do it, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. But the three objectives that it has to meet if we're going to fund activities is it has to benefit low to moderate income persons. It's got to aid in the prevention or elimination of slum or blight. So if we've got some properties that are slums, abandoned, we can use funds to go in, tear it down, potentially work with a partner to build a new home if it's a house we're talking about. And lastly, meet an urgent need. And typically that's utilized in natural disasters. So it's those three objectives that we have to use the funding for. Again, we have to develop a five-year plan. We have to have an annual plan every year, but once every 5 years, we have to develop an overarching comprehensive plan. And that's what we're working on right now, our 2020 to 2024 plan. We're just finishing up the last five-year plan. Goals in the plan that we're just wrapping up with 2019 were following. We worked at construction and rehabilitation on affordable rental, owner, and public housing. We work to support current and expanded emergency, transitional, and permanent supportive housing. We did some public services, including homebuyer education, youth recreational after-school programming in some of the parks, discounted bus passes, installation of accessibility ramps in homes, and then technical assistance support letters for agencies applying for funding for homeless services and housing voucher programs. One of the longest running programs that the city has had using these dollars is our home rehabilitation loan program. What that is it's no interest mortgage loans that we provide citizens, homeowners of up to $25,000. They don't make payments on the loan, there's no interest. It's simply repaid if the home no longer is their primary residence or when they sell it down the road. And they're able to use those home rehabilitation dollars to fix up their homes. The program enables needed improvements to homes. It helps keep neighborhoods strong. There are, plenty of existing housing stocks that is aged over the years and is in need of some of these resources to kind of strengthen that. The great part about the rehabilitation loan program as well is that actually helps provide funding back to continue doing this work. So every year we've got the entitlement grant that we receive from the government, but then we also get, as these, we've been doing the loan program for 30-some years, and as they pay off, the money that is received is program income, and it's funneled right back into doing the same type of activities. Other activities have included assisting in acquisition and development of housing for Moorhead Public Housing Agency, Habitat for Humanity, persons who are disabled. Some of the 2019 activities include home rehabilitation, accessibility ramps, recreational after-school programming in city parks, elevator upgrades to MBHA's Sharpview Apartments, discounted bus passes, acquisition assistance for Habitat and creative care for reaching independence, and again, homebuyer education. The program has limits on how much funding can be used for administration or public services. Again, there are a lot of requirements, regulations. Funding has to be used in a timely manner. We have tests throughout the year where it has to be out the door in a certain amount of time. Regulatory requirements on labor standards. There's a lot of red tape that we work with and work around. So again, we're working on a new 5-year plan, hoping to get as much citizen participation as possible. One of the things that I included towards the end of the packet was a community survey. This went out in June and July, the Moorhead Community Survey. And it'll kind of give you an idea, looks like this, of some of the questions that we asked, what type of things the programs can work with. And we had some pretty good response to that. We had 335 surveys returned, either hard copy or online. And again, right now, that's what we're here to do, is just kind of listen and hear, give you a little basics of what we do with this funding, and then to just hear what do you think are some of the opportunities. What are some of the strengths around these areas that Moorhead has? Maybe some weaknesses, some areas that we should be focusing on in the new 5-year plan. And so if you've got any feedback, I'd be more than happy to hear it. Hopefully you've gotten some for me. It looks like Heather's got thoughts.
I do. Okay, so the first question is, where did you give this survey out, or how did you distribute this for people to fill this
It was
survey out?
distributed to 28 different agencies around town. And then online, we had it on our website, and we had an e-notification and then Facebook posts about the community survey.
And how many did you get back?
We got 335 returned.
What was the goal? What would you have liked to see back?
I think we're happy with the 335.
Okay.
For comparison, last year, or 5 years ago, when we last did this, we did get a bit more. We had a little under 500. And this time, again, it was 335. And where we were short, it was the online. We didn't get as much online engagement as we had in the past. I don't know if people are weary of getting survey requests. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, because I don't recall seeing it before. And it must have come to me somehow or been somewhere, but you get so much of that stuff.
yeah. But along with the surveys, I've been going around and meeting with different government agencies, different social service organizations to meet and discuss, what are the needs that they're seeing, and that's part of what we're doing here.
So this survey is still open and available for people to complete, or it's
No, the
done
survey's
now?
not. The survey
Okay.
is closed.
Okay. Now you want our ideas?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Well, the one thing that I see and that I've experienced myself, but also with the families that I work with, is the lack of infant childcare, because the state of Minnesota has, okay, I think that it's great that we have higher restrictions because it means that we're putting our daycares at a higher level of responsibility for infants, but it is almost impossible to find infant spots, and what happens is a lot of people who are doing their best to work just can't, they have to quit their jobs to stay home with kids because they can't afford that infant spot. So I saw one of the options, or one of the ideas, is like this youth and kind of that income-based supporting people. And I think that that's a need that is just, and more daycares are closing because they can't stay with that if that's something that the city could really look at. I think that, one, it helps our adults stay working. And then also when kids are in daycares, that maybe we could even do some early intervention services with, it just helps our youth to grow up stronger as well. So that would be one suggestion that I have. The other suggestion, and I don't know, it's not on here anywhere, but again, like I have this education brain for kids, is that, another thing that money prevents a lot of people from doing is going to college, especially a lot of our first gen population, our multicultural population, because families just can't afford to send their kids to school. And so I don't know if there's any possibility to fall into kind of that first section, that if we did, some sort of community, if it's through our commission, that we open up some sort of scholarship, because what I do know is that when we invest in our youth and we help them get an education and they know that their city invested in them, it increases the chances for, again, more professionals to come back and work in our community. And if we're providing them the opportunity to the first gen multicultural students, it just helps increase a more diverse work population too. So I think for me, I'm all for housing and I'm all for fixing up houses, because I get that the eyesores are kind of yucky in communities, but I just really care about kids. And I think that those are two areas that I see consistently we're lacking in this community. So I don't know if you can do magic and figure that out in any of this funding, but I do think that those are some needs that would be awesome to look to see if we can meet.
Thank you.
Well, for my part, we're involved in the RAMP program, and we don't advertise it all that much because there is a limited amount of funding for it, but I think it's been a real help to some people to stay in their homes rather than going to some sort of a facility.
So who do you partner with to build the ramps?
Well, we've had to hire contractors most recently. It used to be volunteers, and then it was the home builders, but everybody's too busy doing other kinds of work. And so I know we've found a contractor who's pretty good and available, and I don't know, Josh, if you
Yep,
ever have volunteers, but usually you have to pay for it.
Not the time that I've been here, the year. I've been here less than a year, about 9 months, so I'm still learning some of these ins and outs of the program as well as we've been going. But with the RAMP program, we typically, historically over the last 5-6 years, I believe it's been about 1 to 2 ramps that we'll install a year. And as you said previously, there have been some volunteers with Home Builders Association, and if not that, then it's finding some contractors that can put those in. And we partner with Freedom Resources Center because they actually, when the need arises for these families, they'll put in temporary ramps while we work to see if they qualify and if we can do the permanent ramp. So it's great for them. They can have some of these temporary ramps and have their needs met while we're figuring out how to get it taken care of, build the permanent one.
It would be really cool because now Moorhead Schools next year, we're going to start to have our technical part of our campus. So it's more hands-on, building type of things, so that we know that some kids go into kind of that labor field.
Sure.
That it would be an awesome collaboration with the community to see if maybe some of the kids who are taking those type of courses couldn't maybe partner with, whether it's the contractor, or, just maybe doing a collaboration, because you could get more if you have some more volunteers, and then it's helping kids to kind of get involved, and then they can document that stuff for volunteer hours too. But that program should be up and running next year.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
about half the cost is labor.
Yeah.
The other half is building materials.
Yeah.
Deb?
Well, I know I picked your brain before about some housing stuff, and I'm really glad that we have you to share your skills about, helping people become homeowners, because that's one of the things that, I think that we've been talking a lot about in Moorhead is how do we make home ownership more accessible to more families? And I think some of it is letting people know those different tools that we have in the toolbox. And so I wanted to just ask you a few things. So with the CDBG, the no interest loans, so say if someone if they apply for that, well, first of all, would you, I may have asked you this before and I'm not sure.
It's okay.
Would you know, like say someone was looking to buy a home, but again, it was something where they're looking at an older home, something that they might be able to afford, but they know, okay, it needs a new furnace or something like that. Do they know before they get the house? Would they be able to know, like, if I buy this house, I will be eligible? Or do they have to take the risk and get the house and hope that they get the CDBG money afterwards?
It's a little of both.
little of
They
both.
could know ahead of time. I mean, we're very clear on what the income guidelines are, what the home requirements are. So yeah, they could know going in. When someone applies for the home rehabilitation loan, they get put on our wait list. If it looks like based on the pre-application they qualify, they go on our wait list. And then yearly, as we have projects available, once they hit the top of the list, they're invited to fill out the full application and to go through the process. And so one of the things we do, we do homebuyer education. I attend the homebuyer education classes and usually present 5 to 10 minutes on some of the Minnesota State homeownership incentive programs, but I also talk about the rehab programs so that they're aware of it. The tougher part, and the reason I say maybe not, is because they do have to have a slight bit of equity in the house, and so that for a lot of people who are just getting into the house, it might take a year or two before they'd have the equity they need to be able to qualify for the rehab loan. But based on the house and their income, you would know.
And then, can they also pair that with other things? Because so for instance, I know Gate City has, they offer some low-interest loans for fixing up older homes. There's also one where you can refinance your college loans to be able to get a mortgage. So if say someone did something like that, would they be able to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
great.
In fact, there are a lot of communities have the rehab programs. Fargo does, the counties typically do, and Clay County has a rehab program. And there are people who've done both, the county one as well as the city one.
I know within the city one, we also had inspectors that would go in and reassess the needs, especially if the homeowner thinks what they need. We would send our inspectors in for the
Yep, absolutely.
the furnace or even the foundation and stuff. They would expect it, and then they would give their assessment and stuff, and then of course the bids will go out too. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Moorhead has to have the same inspectors what they would do, especially when they're working with federal money. You have to have that.
I think the home ownership program is a good program for new Americans, because most of the new Americans are not okay to pay the interest fee, not because it's extra money, but because it's against their faith.
Right.
And I also agree with Heather. Childcare is one of the barriers we have this city, and I think as well as community center is in need.
I would agree with that. It's funny because we were just talking about, we always have to go over to Fargo to do big events.
Or deal with community centers.
Yeah, that we don't really have something in this community that we can hold a vendor fair or a powwow or a cultural event. We just don't, we rely on.
Fargo or deal with, or we have to rent somewhere, or we have to go to the parks. We don't have a community center here.
Josh, once you finish going through the data from the survey, will you be presenting that? And
I certainly can if you like.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Can you just let me know a little bit more about what the youth programs are that you're talking about? You said in the park, is it like
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
summer park program?
It is, yeah. There are two programs. One is administered by Boys and Girls Club of the Red River Valley. It's the Play Outside Daily. They have a mobile recreation truck, and so they'll go to different parks and have recreational opportunities for the kids. And then the other is after-school program at Rumpke Park, and that's administered by the Moorhead Parks Department.
Could we get a traveling library?
I'll put that on the list. That's.
So, you talk about like going around and doing activities. I think physical activity is great, but I think reading, one of the struggles that we see in the school is that our third grade reading levels, that's where you start to see that education gap built, that if we could start, I know our library is wonderful, but if people can't get to the library.
Can you tell me more about that? I'm not super familiar with those. I assume it's a library that travels, but is it,
Yeah, well, it's just like an ice cream truck.
yeah?
But it comes around and so some communities do like, and I've seen some houses have them, they're like little book libraries, but those get a little bit complicated because you don't really know what's gonna end up in the book library, like is it an appropriate book for kids to be grabbing? That like having a mobile library is something that one of the reservations started doing it because our reservations are so large that they started to go out to the communities. Then I'm just wondering that the physical activity and the park part of it is great, but like if we could have this little traveling library that went out and in the communities gave kids books, kind of like, the Dolly Parton book thing that you get in the mail. But if our community invested in that, because I know in education, third grade reading level is so important because that's when it switches from learning how to read and reading to learn. Up until that point, you're like learning how to read, and then if you're not at that third grade level, then you miss out on learning because you're struggling to read. And so, something like that in some of those communities that aren't close to the library or don't get involved in the library programming.
I think years ago, back on the res and in the urban area, that there was a rural area, it was called a bookmobile.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what they would go out with their books and stuff, and they'd be sitting there, and everybody would get to go out and get a book and stuff and things. So that'd be something, even around here, to instead of going to the library, a bookmobile was by a parking lot or a church thing, then kids can, around the community, the kids that are around that church community, they can come in, get a book or and stuff. And you would just check it out just like when you went to the library, So I think back then it was called bookmobile.
Yeah.
But,
I'm all out of ideas.
Yeah. What is now some of this the CDBGO grant, that's grant money. Is there a way, just kind of throwing this out there, that human relations would be able to apply for a grant for to benefit our low to moderate income when we do programs?
Well, and actually, the funding for stuff for activities that the Human Rights Commission does comes from CDBG.
Oh, okay.
It's utilized as part of program administration funds, and it's because of undertaking fair housing activities, community education stuff. So it's already doing that.
So it's there. Okay.
Yep, it's there. That's a good suggestion.
Like that.
I have a quick question. I think we used to play soccer here, Moorhead soccer field. Is there anybody who knows Moorhead soccer field?
Mm-hmm.
The 40th Avenue?
Mm-hmm.
We used to play there, but I was trying to put together a group of youth, of New Americans, to have a league of New American Engagement League. But I find out there's no goals there. The post is already taken by someone. I don't know who is in charge by that. Is that the city or?
I would assume the Parks Department, but I don't know for sure.
But I think that they've contracted with a couple, at least one soccer league, and I think that's what Connie, Because I don't know all the details, but I know I've heard this, that there's one of the youth soccer leagues, like, just like we do that with the T-ball too, that, there's a league that then they kind of get first rights to it. I don't know all the details about it, but I think we should look into that.
Yeah, we show up the other day, but all goals are gone. There's no goals there. Most of the leagues have been Fargo, but I was trying this one to have here in Moorhead.
That would be nice.
And you have a pretty big
Yeah.
following.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a need. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that that is something that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use the schools right now? Do
Yeah.
you guys practice at some
Yeah.
of the schools?
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions for Josh?
When is this due? When's submission due? Or when is this report going to be?
Oh, the five-year plan, so there's a lot of citizen participation, and I appreciate you mentioning that, because I don't have dates yet, but I think it's important to mention. We do a couple public meetings, so they have yet to come. Sometime in September, we'll be holding 2 public meetings where we just invite the public, commissioners, whoever wants to come to, like this, just share, suggestions, ideas, what they think, or maybe some opportunities. Then in October, we'll have a public hearing at one of the city council meetings. Hopefully, we don't have our calendar timeline finalized yet, but roughly this is what it is. And then in November is when the plan would likely be presented to the city council for approval.
Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
Thanks for coming, Josh.
I can leave now, right?
But you can't leave, right? As we go on to item 6, reports, announcements, and upcoming event. Do we,
Diversity Job Fair is coming September 18th. It's 10 to 12:30. You want to pass to either?
Is this the one that's at the mall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have 2 events that I wanted to mention.
okay, Deb?
And actually, one of them's tomorrow. So there's a couple of folks coming up from MnDOT, the Minnesota Department of Transportation, and they're looking for community input. It's a session called Equity as Affected by Transportation. And so they're having a meeting at Clay County Family Services in room 7. And they'll have discussions about some of the challenges regarding transportation, different modes of transportation that people use, safety concerns and things like that. And so would really like to get some input from folks in the community about some of the challenges with transportation. And then on August 28th, there's a workshop called The Impact of Implicit Bias in Youth Work. And it'll be at Dakota Medical Foundation from 10 to 3, and that's on August 28th. And it's being hosted by Youth Intervention Program Association and LSS.
Give me the name of that again.
Yeah, so the impact of implicit bias in youth work. So working, and not youth works.
But working with
Working
youth.
with youth, yeah. Yeah.
Can you send me a little bit more information about that?
Yes, yeah, there's a Facebook event, and I can send it to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Do we have a,
As
does
well as me.
Human Rights have a web page? So these announcements and stuff will go on there?
The video will be posted. The ones that are in the next week or 2 will not be on there yet, because those aren't. Essentially, those will be in the minutes that'll be approved next week, next month. So, no, we don't have a way to post like current activities that I
Coming
know
up,
of.
right away,
Folks
okay.
watching us, all the folks watching.
Everybody watching us. Pay mind, people.
Willard, I did have one more
Okay.
event to announce.
Nate?
The Freedom Resource Center has been in Moorhead for 30 years now, and been back and forth across the river a couple times, but we basically serve both states, this entire community, 21 counties total is our service area. And so this year, we're celebrating 30 years, and as part of that, we're going to have an annual awards banquet on September 17th, and we're going to have some entertainment by the dueling pianos, and it's a sit-down meal, and we're going to honor some of our volunteers and advocates. And so I just wanted to mention that to you. It's on Eventbrite, or you can call our office and get some tickets. If you're inclined to come, we'd love to have you. So we're trying to sort of really call attention to the things we've been trying to do in the community for people with disabilities.
What time is that?
At 5 to 9, so 5 o'clock social, 6 o'clock dinner, around 6:30 to 7 we'll start the program, and then hopefully get to the dueling pianos around 8 o'clock.
Okay. Cool.
And Nate, congratulations, 30 years. That's really impressive. And it's just such an important part of our community that the organization is.
Yeah, and sometimes, it's kind of flying under the radar, but when people have a disability, we want them to call us first. And part of that is, just getting the word out.
It's really interesting. I heard a lot of statistics actually yesterday on some things, and one of the things that stuck out the most to me was, I think it was did they say 17%? And so, yeah, so that's the largest minority population, is the disabled population, and it's the only population that any one of us could be a part of at any time.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just, it was really unique that it is something that, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, I don't think that a lot of people include that part of it, and so.
Well, one of the problems is people don't vote in a block, and so there really isn't a constituency that you can go and lobby to, but, there's so many things that we all have in common as people with disabilities, and it's unemployment, and it's isolation, and it's sort of a devaluation of who you are because of the perceptions, so that's real common.
Good work.
Yes, I'd like to also congratulate you on your 30 years. I learned so much from you, Keith, and Jerry when I worked with you guys at the city of Fargo, going over a lot of things that were, in fact, just doing a lot of the things that you showed me and stuff. It becomes a culture that if I look at something, I can say, hey, that's not in compliance, and that's what we need our people, our workers, our city workers, and our people to look at, to become a culture in the need for the disability, and for other people, just that, look at something and they know it's not right, and like I said, I learned so much from being with you guys, and then going to some of your sessions and stuff, so thank you.
Welcome.
Any new business?
I'll point out, if I could, there was a flyer up
Okay.
here. I don't know if everybody got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Opening house.
But something the city's working on, their downtown plan. So take a look. Hopefully, if any of you can join, I know it's a big deal for the city.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if it's a report or announcement or an upcoming event, but it's all item 6. First, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys in the support in presenting Indigenous Peoples Day to City Council. I know that it started with you guys being on board, and so I know that not only myself, but the community really appreciates that. And so a lot of the questions that we were asked is like, okay, so if we pass it, what are you going to do? Because like passing it was step 1, actually putting the day together is like step 1 through 50. And so we do have, we had our first meeting, and we are holding the evening session here. We have a couple things going on with the universities. We have a couple things going on with within Indian education within the schools for all students. It's not just our American Indian students, so it's hopefully things that all students can be a part of. But one thing that I want to put out there just to get on your guys' calendars, so October 14th, that evening, we have a meal, but then we also have a powwow with a grand entry, and I don't know if any of you guys have been to one, but we're asking that all of the human rights commissioners, and then we're also going to open it up to city council members and the mayor to come and be a part of grand entry. It's a way that we respect and honor the people who were part of this change, and so I would love for all of you guys to be there. One, just to be recognized, but also for you guys to experience the beauty of our culture and kind of what this group started together. So if you guys, I don't have any like flyers, we're working on that. And then the other piece is that I don't know what help I can get from you guys, but we would really like to do something at City Hall that morning to kind of kick it off. And what we would like, and it just needs to be more of a conversation, but we would like Fargo to be a part of that, almost like both mayors kind of saying something, because Fargo is where we used to celebrate it, and now it's exciting, and they I think are open to coming and doing something at our city hall. And I know we have a drum group that would come. Willard has kind of been asked, and I think accepted, doing some smudging and blessing, and then like reading the resolution, having the mayors kind of say something. And so that's our hope for that day, and I'm not really sure how we make that happen. So that's back out into the universe for other people to help with.
Where were you thinking of hosting the powwow?
It's at the Moorhead High School.
Okay.
Yep, and we have a meal there.
Okay.
Times are just a little bit tricky because it's also parent-teacher night, but that's not a problem because I feel like if some parents are there, they might stop in, and just see what's going on. But we will have a meal, and then what we're planning for is grand entry to start at 6:30 at the Moorhead High School.
What time? 6:30, right?
Yeah. And the meal will start at 5:30. So if you want to bring your family and stuff and eat first, that'll be at 5:30.
What does grand entry mean?
So grand entry is, Willard, do you want to explain it a little bit?
Grand entry is when we're having a celebration of all tribes, of all the community, and we get together as a people, not of just one tribe, but of a people, and we celebrate the grand entry as like a procession coming in. We will have we always honor our veterans. We've been fighting wars for years, and we've been helping the U.S. government fight wars even when we're not citizens. And of course, the government, U.S. fought us too. But so we honor them, and we have honor guards that come in with our Eagle staff, our American flag. We'll probably have the Minnesota flag, and then if we're going to have North Dakota delegate, we'll have a North Dakota flag and stuff. So we honor them, and they all come in a procession. Usually behind them will be our dignitaries like the mayors, the councilmen and stuff, and then behind them would be usually our traditional elder dancers and stuff, So it's a procession of all the different dancers, even some of our the ones that were princesses from the different reservations, or from different, or they all come in there and they proceed in to show the audience, to show the people, this is who we are, and they do it's called a grand entry song, and they just dance around a circle and stuff until everybody's in. At the end, it ends. It's usually a prayer that starts it, and then they start introducing the veterans. The veterans have a veteran song by themselves and stuff. And so it's done at all big events, especially with the Native community and stuff. So if you went to a powwow, no matter where you went, Canada, Arizona and stuff, they always will have a grand entry, and they do it respecting that way. So that's it's to show who we are as Indigenous people, that we never lost our culture, we never lost our tradition, and we still respect our veterans, our warriors, and elderly people, or our young people, because even our young people will come in and stuff, and to showcase who we are in our regalia. We don't say costumes; it's called regalia, and who we are and stuff. So, and you'll see the different kinds of regalias. You have traditionals. You might have fancy dance costumes. Or you might have jingle dress, or, or fancy dance, women fancy dance dresses and stuff. So, yeah, they all come in different ways. Heather, you want to,
No, it's beautiful.
I
I mean, it's what I like people to come and watch, if you're going to come and watch something about our culture, because it's just really moving. And the nice thing is that we'll have an MC. We know this is very educational, so he'll be talking through all of this while you're there. So I mean, it's a learning opportunity for everybody too.
Would it be possible to have Heather on the agenda for an upcoming council meeting?
To do the
And that way
invite.
to talk about it and, right, invite the council and then.
Well, and I think just give an update, because
Yeah,
they were
right.
asking about what's going to happen.
I think that, maybe just the citizen participation, do you think, to just, or do you want something?
The nice thing is if it was on the agenda, maybe as a report at the, I don't know where, in terms of where it would go, but
Yeah,
this
I
way
don't
people
know.
could see it on the agenda, and so
Gotcha.
they know ahead of time, so because it'd be nice to, some other people might want to come and find out about it, just in terms of because if, this could also be a way for us to help get the word out about it too. So not just to inform the council, but to inform the community at large.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, and then at that time, we can verbally invite the councilman and the mayor, and stuff,
Yeah.
and, plus, you'll be getting a letter too, but.
Right. And I don't know all the
Personally.
things about how you get things on there, but I wonder if that could be under the proclamation, how when we do the proclamations and, what is it, proclamations and something else, like reports or something, I don't know if we could put it in under there, that would be,
I can look into it.
because that's nice at the top of the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
do we have any other upcoming events, announcements, and reports?
Can I make one feedback from Pride?
Oh, yes.
My strong suggestion is before we sign up for things, maybe make sure that we have enough people to cover the slots. I know that we were good on the front end, and then I ended up staying for 2 extra hours because nobody signed up for the slots like after me, and I just didn't feel comfortable leaving. I mean, that wasn't my plan for the day. It was fun. Like I said, I was giving out tattoos like I was Oprah. But, I mean, just maybe be mindful of, like, before we actually commit and sign up, that we have people who are going to fill those slots. Because it tends to be then it falls on the people who are just there to pick it up. And I stayed longer than I had planned, I guess. You just want to make that, it was fun, but.
Yeah. I had said I was away, but I know I mentioned it to council, and we could try to get the sign-up sheet to them, sooner, and then, but it's sometimes just getting that stuff, it's, they miss it too, but, yeah,
Was this our first time doing that?
no.
This is our second time, right?
At least, I know it was done in 18.
Yeah. Josh, when
Oh, geez.
I stayed there the whole 8 hours in Fargo, so, when I was on the planning thing, so. Not saying too much, Johnson.
I was there for 2.5 hours.
I set it up and I took it down.
But thanks to those of you who
But
did
no,
it.
no, it was,
Thanks, Josh,
but,
for
I think,
getting the word out.
as we grow as a Human Rights Commission, we also need to start partnering with our community to, hey, help us volunteer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
help us with this program and stuff. So when we do that in the future, we can have a community member that's involved with our Human Rights Commission. Oh, yes, I'm sitting in, I'm doing an hour for the human rights, for the Fargo-Moorhead Human Rights Commission, or the Moorhead Human Rights Commission and stuff. So if we're not spread too thinly, it's nice if we're all there at a certain time, because I thought I was going to be out that weekend, and then I ended up coming, but then I had to be down in Wapanen for a blessing and prayer, so I had to leave early. So. But some of those times that I do those prayers and such, it's just,
So random.
they just call and they need something, so I have to go. So, but no, it was enjoyable. I got to work with DJ again.
Yeah.
And he's going to be my little partner on smudging, I think, from now on. And every time I need somebody, I'm going to, where's DJ at? I said, so,
He loves it, yeah.
stuff like that. So, and he has a traditional name,
Wambly Tokahe,
and that means
leading eagle.
leading eagle. Okay, so he's a young hawk eagle, a young leading eagle. So, which is good because then I can always call leading eagle to help support Bear Shield.
Yeah.
That's my traditional name, Bear Shield. So, but if we have no more new business, will anybody want to to close the meeting or
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
second? This meeting is closed.
Thanks.
Is that passed by unanimous
Oh,
consent?
as a matter.
Do we have to vote on? I don't
We
think we
voted?
voted.
I don't know.
Pass.
But if you're going to first and second, we might as well.
Oh,
Second.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't
All in
remember.
favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.